Since the colonies established, the colonists had been under British rule all the time, and England wanted to make as much money as possible from them. They wanted to be free and have living life. Also, they eager to own a place that they can be active agents of their own narratives.
So the colonists started to resist when the British imposed a heavy tax on them, which means the revolution also protected the colonists' economy rights. There are many reasons cause the revolution war occurred. Our group chose 2 events that we think are important.
Although the Sugar Act already began to bring the money for British, of course it's not enough for them, so the problem is still there. They need more money. That's why in March 1765, the Stamp Act actually began. The Stamp Act requires stamps to be placed on the most printed materials, like this teapot and papers. The act which imposed a tax on all paper documents in the colonies because the British Empire is looking for its North American colonies as a revenue sources.
The other reason pushed the American Independence War was the Tea Act. The Boston Tea Party happened as a result of taxation without representation, and the reason that happened is complex. First of all, the American colonists thought British government was unfairly taxing them to pay the debt from the French and Indian War. Also, colonists believed that they didn't belong to Parliament, so they didn't have the right to pay the tax to them. Secondary, tea had been regularly imported to the colonies since the 18th century, and when they realized tea could make more money, they chose to place this tax on tea, sold in both England and the English colonies. Also, as the price of British tea became high, the colonists was outraged. Parliament offered a monopoly called the East India Company, who in turn to raise the price of tea. Tea Act passed by the British Parliament on May 10, 1773. The colonists saw British government wanted to undermine colonial business through these acts, so most of them stopped drinking tea. Later in New York, the colonists refused to let the boat land and later returned to England. The most significant thing happened when the big shipment arrived in Boston on November 29, 1773. The dock workers refused to unload the ship. Thomas Hutchinson held the ship in port. The men unloaded and paid duties. The governor promised answer by 5 p.m. But when the appointing time came, the governor were gone. On the night of December 16, 1773, over 100 men, including Son of Liberty, boarded 3 ships with the expensive teas in the Boston harbor. They dressed up for Hayden. Since that time, they thought they were American, not British. During the night, they threw almost 100,000 pounds of tea, almost $1.5 million in today's money. This act became known as the Boston Tea Party.
Finally, in 1781, the Americans won their independence, and the fighting formally ended in 1783.